Today on Homeworthy, discover the charm and grandeur of historic architecture as we tour 3 remarkable homes that boast enviable original features from bygone eras. We visit a beautiful cottage in the English countryside, a stone home in New Jersey, and a federal farmhouse near Boston. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hello Homeworthy, my name is Sue Jones and welcome to my barn in the Cotswolds. I can't wait to show you around, so come in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Welcome to my rather eccentric, rather beautiful home in the middle of the Cotswolds, in the middle of nowhere. When I say eccentric, it is an old barn, and it's reached through a colonnade which is mostly made up of Roman pillars, which we're very proud of, and it has this rather enchanting feel to it as you walk towards it. It was very important to us that we didn't spoil the feel of this place, and so we've kept this part of the house very much as it was. We've obviously done a lot of work on the roof, but you can't tell. It's got all the original beams in it, and we just shored it up to make sure that it was safe. It is the main entrance to the house, and so it's used a lot, but from the other side you can't really tell what it looks like. We can walk up towards the house, and here we've got my trusty guard dogs, who are the most useless guard dogs you'll ever find in your life. They just love people, so it's their home too. And we tend to plant, there's a lot of the topiary was here. So a lot of the topiary is more than 30 years old. And we are very protective of it because it's very easy to lose some of these planting. And if you do, you have to start again from scratch. We look after it very carefully. We've got a lot of a lot of box hedges. And everything seems to grow very well here, even though we're on quite a slope. I always tease my husband and say that it makes a very interesting croquet game on the hill. So this is the entrance to the barn, and this is the first thing that I saw when I was shown around this house, which was about 17 years ago. And I walked in and I was met not by the owner, but by the very old-fashioned housekeeper, who said to me that she'd been showing a lot of people around and there'd been a lot of interest in this building. But she said, "My dear, I am a white witch and I can tell you you're going to live here," which was a little astonishing, as the next day we didn't get the house. Someone else overbid for it. But 6 weeks later, it came back on the market, and we knew we had to have it. We didn't even come back and see it again. And that started 2 years of intense work. Some of the features of this house, as you can see, it's a huge double height in here. It's a classic shape of a Cotswold barn, and it would have been used for keeping cattle, sheep, horses. But we decided that we wanted to live in the whole space and not divide the room up. So we started off with trying to work out what we were going to do with the woodwork. There was no woodwork in here at all. All of this has been put in by us, and here we had a genius carpenter who did this Elizabethan Tudor linen fold frieze for us here, and plus he did the whole floor here. So we then decided that we should plaster each end because it was a little bit too rustic. We wanted to keep some of the woodwork, but not all of it. Every bit of wood you see in here is new. We've put every single door in, every single banister, the gallery up there. This whole panel here is new, as indeed I said, the floor as well. So. And I should mention the back door, which is when we moved here, there was no exit that side, so we had to put all of that in and level out the lawn, so we had a bit of flat space that we could use for entertaining and eating outside, which we do a lot. Here I decided to use some very good quality natural linen from Belgium, which I'm a great fan of. I wanted to keep it neutral but with a bit of a dramatic effect, so had specially dyed bullion fringe. We don't close this a great deal, but it does, as it closes the room in a bit, but you know, I didn't want the starkness of not having any fabric here. My husband, I think, got this table from his mother. It's an old Spanish console with a lovely old sort of bowed top, very old, which you can see the dogs sleep underneath. Well, they don't actually, they sleep in my bed, but that's where they hover for most of the day. And then as you walk, we keep the coats here, you know, croquet sticks, lots of sun hats, which go into storage in the winter, and we change them over. And then we get into the main living area, the main part of the barn. We start off with this, what we call an altar table. And I did have originally a tablecloth made for it, a lovely, beautiful Fortuny tablecloth. But we actually threw on this lovely old Turkish kilim with the most beautiful old faded colours. And it looks so good that we left it like that. You'll see quite a dramatic sculpture on top, which we weren't really supposed to have. I sent my husband out to buy actually a dining room table, because we felt that we were grown up enough now to have a proper dining room table. And he came back 6 hours later with this bust of St. Eustace, which, if you swing to the left, you'll see I still don't have a proper dining room table, but she's become very much part of the scenery here. She's unmovable, very, very heavy indeed. And as I will go on to say, in this room, everything needs to be a bit dramatic because small things just tend to get eaten up here. You need, you know, big statements. Slightly splashy statements, and so everything is slightly oversized. I decided to divide the room into 3, otherwise it was impossible to have a sort of conversation piece here. So the left-hand side is the dining room where we eat, and then I have two sitting areas. The central area is around an ottoman, which is oversized and huge and bowing under the weight of books. We cannot, you know, I almost think it's going to collapse fairly soon. And so we can get quite a lot of people in here, and it's got some wonderful acoustics. Not that I can sing at all, but apparently in the old days they used to have wonderful concerts here because it has a natural acoustic, I don't know what the term is, sound to it. Around this, I've got two very large Howard sofas. They are super comfortable, and they are. You could sleep on them very happily, but they are. I bought them to last for life, and it's a very cosy part of the room, which we lowered the ceiling here and put a gallery in upstairs, so my husband can work up there, and it's a small library, but it just gives this end of the room a little bit less height and a slightly more cozy feel to it. It's still very light because we have this huge window which looks down the valley, which every opportunity we wanted to make sure we took advantage of the view down the valley, which I'll show you later. Again, I've got more of the same curtains. Again, they don't get closed very often, but it's nice to have them there. I've always done in a room like this, as you can see, my furniture is very neutral, which I love because all the colour comes from the cushions, the books, the paintings, the carpets, the tapestry. Everything adds to it, and you can really see them. So I keep the actual main pieces of furniture fairly neutral. I find it a much more calming way to decorate. I love antiques and old things that I've collected, or Alex collected over the years, and they're very much part of this home here. For many years, we've collected them together. But I love very clever modernity. I like very slick bathrooms. I'm very keen on streamlined design. This house actually doesn't look it, but it's actually very high tech. I can't work any of it, but my husband has put hours of work into creating a very high-tech security and heating system, which you can't see, and that was the point of it. So nothing is what it quite seems here. Yeah, this is a very old ottoman, which I had covered about 30 years ago, and they were quite surprised when I did it, because actually we are using here the wrong side. The right side is actually a Lelièvre velvet, but I found that a bit brash, so I used the lovely subtle base, which I think the upholsterers thought I was completely mad. But anyway, I've loved it ever since. On top, there are things that we've been given over the years. I mean, my husband is a great collector, and he came back the other day with this piece of beautiful corn, but just because it looks so beautiful. So we've got some lovely old blue and white china. Most of our blue and white china here, except for the eating part, are old pieces. So you can see behind me, these are collected either by us or from Alex's very, very talented mother, who was an interior designer herself. So we're lucky enough to have some of that collection here. And our life would be very empty without books. In fact, we'd be very uncluttered without books, but that's the way it is. So it's going to stay like that. We always buy old Turkish kilims. We've been buying them for years. You have to look after them. They do wear out if you have high traffic on it. But I personally love the designs, and I love the colour it gives. And we've got 3 in this room, and they anchor the whole room down together. But they, as I was talking earlier about giving colour and vibrancy to the room without distracting and overtaking the furniture. Oh, this is a very lovely portrait of, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, darling, Lady Sydenham, who was the second wife of Sir Francis Drake. Well, this is, this is a bit of a cheat table because I wanted something this size and I didn't have one. So this is actually a cloth, but again, lovely old faded linen, which I adore. And it's got, some things that we've collected over the years. Some lovely old blue and white china, which I believe we bought when we on a trip to Thailand. Some lovely old boxes. Some very sentimental silver pieces. This is a piece that I gave my husband for his 50th birthday with about 50 of his friends and family names engraved on it. And as one does in houses like this, essential porcupine needles, which I bought one day because I just love them. And a lovely old Chinese lamp. I love those faded old Chinese styles that are actually still made the old way in a certain part of China. And having visited it several times, I'm still in absolute awe of the craftsmanship. So it's nice to have a reference which is an old one. So we're going to move to the next part of the room now, which is quite separate, but obviously not that far away. Down here, there is a very small, very pretty chair, which belonged to my husband. I can't really believe he ever sat on it, but it is very darling and very pretty. And he's always had it, so it's a sentimental piece. As I've just been prompted, it's a nursery chair. And then we've got this circular bookcase, which was something my husband always wanted. It moves around, and it would have been either on its own or as a pair in a very grand library, I expect. But we keep some of Alex's favourite pieces in here, and some special books. But it gives some height as well, which is very necessary in a room like this. Then we slowly move into the middle part, which was a bit more complicated for me because it didn't have the focal point of a fireplace. And so I ordered this enormous ottoman, which didn't go down terribly well when I first got it in here. My husband referred to it as a raspberry swimming pool. But fortunately, he got used to it, and it is now groaning with books. It's supposed to supply a bit of extra seating, but nobody can fit on it. So it's just a receptacle for more and more and more books. Again, a lovely old kilim from Turkey, which is lovely and faded. The more faded, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And again, very neutral colours, but I've tried to circle the room so you've got seating on three sides. And it's broken up by a rather lovely but very overfilled Carlton House desk, which is a favourite of ours. It would have been probably more normal to have a flat sofa table here, but I rather love this, and it seems to work very well indeed. And we got, again, we mix things up here. This is a Moroccan table with mother of pearl inlay, which I think belonged to my mother-in-law. So that's another sentimental piece. Again, more bits of blue and white china. We collect funny things. So we've got, these wonderful old balls made of bone, which just because they look nice, it has nothing to do, in my view, of their value. It's because they have a purpose. They have a style which I particularly like. Well, there's that expression, isn't there? Which is, if you leave doors open, people will say to you, "Gosh, were you born in a barn?" My answer to what's it like living in a barn is neither my husband or I particularly like tiny cottages, but we didn't want a huge, enormous house with parts of it that we didn't use properly. So this was an amazing compromise in a way, because we've got this room that is as big as a room you would find in a very large stately home, probably, but we use it all. This is our main living area. We've got a little snug where we watch TV or read or whatever, and the kitchen, and our own bedroom, bathroom here. But basically, we use this room, and so what I would say about living in a barn is that we are lucky enough to have these large spaces that we really, really use. Living in a barn does have its huge advantages and disadvantages. Our walls are extremely thick, and with that you get masonry bees. The other day we had a huge infestation of ladybirds. I think you call them ladybugs, but and we're quite sentimental about them, but it was a swarm of them. So all sorts of things like that happen in an old house like this. You can't avoid it. We had to work very hard to keep this house warm and to get the right level of heating here. And the quirks are you have to be very careful of the roof. It is a very delicate, beautifully constructed piece of architecture, but you have to look after that. And all the tiling is very ancient. We used old stone for everything. So we've tried to keep everything not looking as it did, but I didn't want to lose the charm and the essence of this place, which is very charming and very livable. It's a happy house. Well, I feel like it's a magic house. People come here often in a really bad mood, and they leave with a smile on their face. So I think it has some magic qualities to it. So you mentioned these are called dummy boards, and we call them the sort of William and Mary. I think that's their age, and I think they were used as a sort of deterrent to burglars. I think they were put into a hallway where they didn't obviously have any electric light, and they were supposed to put people off. I'm not sure whether that's just a bit of a myth, but they're highly decorative. They're sort of cut out, and they're very beautifully painted. There's a man and his wife, and they were supposed to be, life size, but you see how short they were in those days. Then in here we've got some lovely console tables. My husband's beloved boat, which that end of the house is extremely dusty because nobody's allowed anywhere near it because it's so fragile. But it sits there, and it's just come back from the Maritime Museum, where it had an extensive repair, and it's one of his favourite things. And as you can see from the table, we've got a column in the middle with Napoleon on the top, which is extremely odd to have in the middle of a dining room table, but the height and scale is perfect. And we've got very tall ochre phalaenopsis, which, they add the bit of drama that is needed. And ochre dining room chairs, which we've had for many, many years. Both of us love hosting, as you call it. We like having people here, and I like to cook, and so we get great pleasure from doing it. My main always priority is that people feel really at home. So we have an open drinks tray where people can help themselves to what they want. This opening here, which it joins us up to the kitchen. You can't walk through it, but it's a serving area. So it means that I can cook in the kitchen, and put everything on here so that people can serve them themselves. And so that works extremely well. As far as the table, I tend to use the ochre crock because I love blue and white, and so to be able to use that every day is perfect for me. We tend to sit down for dinner in the evening, even if it's just the two of us, because we quite like the ritual of it. But sometimes, on Sunday, or Monday, I think it was, this table had 10 or 12 people around it. So, and it will extend if we really want it to. And whenever we can, which is not very often, we eat outside, which is nice and convenient there, but the many times I've laid it and had to unlay it, such as the British summer. We have I always use white linen napkins, which I like very much. I don't use too much silver on the table. We've got some obviously silver cutlery, but I don't have lots and lots of silver on the table. And sometimes I make it a bit more themed, certainly at Easter, Christmas, someone's birthday, because I like occasions. I like the drama of it. So I've got a store full of bits and pieces I can bring out if I want to change the look a little bit. Well, you can tell here, we both love portraits. So mostly these are portraits. I've never minded having lots of eyes staring down. They're all highly decorative. I would have to get some expert information to tell you what they all are, but I don't know what they all are. They all have, a sentimental story to us. We love having them around, and I think the scale works very well in here. Up here, these are two very interesting things. These are what they call burses, and I think they came out of Hampton Court, and they were what Henry VIII used to keep money and documents in. We had them restored and hung because they're very, very, very fragile, but they go very well in this sort of environment. Just talking a little bit about the windows here. When this was a barn, it would have just had the top triangle of the windows. There would have been no glass below it. Back in the 60s, they were opened up below to give more light to a room, so that this was a threshing barn. It was for grain, and they would have been air vents. And so what we did was, again, you can see on each of the windows, they are, beautiful shutters, which are certainly made for us here, which we close in the evening. They don't have curtains on, but I can see why you think they look a little bit church-like. I suppose it's because of the slightly Gothic top, but they would have been to let air in, to let the corn dry. No, my husband is a very, very keen chess player. I think he does sometimes online with people all over the world. I wouldn't dream of being as presumptuous enough to play against him, because he has much more experience than I do. But I believe this is an old chessboard that was given to him by his stepfather. So I think it has some very some very good sentimental value. Okay, so this is a basket full of some of my old collected pieces of fabric from all over the world. I can see there's some old Sazanis there from Turkey. There's some Indian pieces. There's old kilims here. So I tend to keep some of it here. I haven't actually got a use for them at the moment, but I love them. So they're here to remind me of my travels. I have extensively travelled to China and the Far East. I think I've done 44 trips to India, and actually never been on holiday there. It's what one thing I intend to do is have a holiday in India at one stage, because it's an enormously exciting, wonderful country. So I have travelled a lot in China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Burma, and mainland India, and all of those places, without exception, have influenced my love of art, craftsmanship, style. I love the way that the English mix Oriental chinoiserie, China, with much more Western taste. So for me, that is, it is certainly my form of style, and my husband the same. So a lot of the things here we've collected over the years. Okay, I'm going to take you all outside in a minute. Hopefully we'll catch it before it starts raining. But before we do, I wanted to show you the snug. So follow me. Okay, so this is the snug. We opened this up. You couldn't walk into it from the hall when we bought the house. So we opened it up and had the banisters and the steps made. Originally, it would have been where they kept the cattle and maybe horses in the old days when it was actually used as a barn. We use it for, relaxing, watching TV. The dogs love it. It's their favourite room. We had it painted, and none of our painting here is one colour. We had a specialist painter who took many, many days to get the finish right. And this is sort of reminds me of wonderfully faded Italian Tuscan plaster that is, really softened in the sun. We didn't want it starkly white, and we've actually even painted the ceiling, which actually gives it a much cosier feel. So this room is a very interesting room because we've got this lovely big window which we can open up in the summer right out into the garden. So you're practically outside. We have some books here. Obviously, we wouldn't have a room without books. We've got more paintings, more people, mostly. And my husband's just started collecting some rather lovely old bits of carved stone, which we've started to hang up. Which adds a bit more drama. You can see in the corner there is a lovely old piece of chinoiserie. And then we've got some family pictures. Alex has got a very big family, and I have too. So not all of them are here, but we do change them around from time to time, and make sure that we have pictures, for example, of Alex's mother and stepfather and father, who sadly are no longer alive, my father too. So it's lovely to have them there to keep a memory. Oh, this is Max. This is, as I've said before, my trusted guard dog who wouldn't scare a fly. This is his favourite room in the house because he can see what's going on and who's coming and going. I quite often work in here. If I'm working from home, and I've usually got both dogs with me when I do. I love having the view on the garden, so for me it's perfect. But my osteopath doesn't think the same. He thinks it's dreadful for my back not to have a proper chair, but I'm perfectly happy. Well, this is a lovely old fabric. It's an old Fortuny fabric, which I'm not a great pattern person, but I do admire Fortuny, especially the old designs, very much indeed. I've mixed them with some of our oak cushions. Again, this is an old carpet. We bought this ottoman at a sale, but it's obviously been handmade by somebody in cross stitch, which, you know, I couldn't do, but, you know, I love the colours here. And so with the combination of the pictures, the books, the cushions, you can see again I've got very neutral sofas and blinds, but the colour comes across, you know, in a lovely mellow way, which is what I like. I love most about this house that I truly, it feeds my soul. We feel very privileged to live here. We knew immediately it's where we wanted to live and spend the rest of our lives. Because we don't have children, we didn't have to have endless bedrooms, so it's quite small and contained, and certainly wouldn't suit a large family. So for us, it ticked all of those boxes. It's in the part of the world that I love very much indeed and know very well, and I think it's generally a very happy place, and I think that the beauty of it certainly feeds both of our souls, and keeps us very busy as well. So this is the back of the house. It was, as you can probably see, it was a major slope. So we had to dig this out to make it flat. Otherwise we couldn't have used it to eat and entertain out here. So it makes rather a nice enclosed space. It's very green at the moment, but I think it's probably worth looking at one of the best views. If you follow me, I can show you. So this is one of the views down the valley, which is sort of perfect, really. In the winter, you can see a lot more, but it's so green at the moment, you can't see so much through the branches. But it is a spectacular view down into the valley, which is called Macaroni Valley. We eat out here. We have drinks at the front. The morning sun comes out at the front, and this is the lunchtime onwards. Well, we have a lot of natural seeded Alchemilla mollis, which grows up in between the paving stones here and seeds itself. Some of it was here when we bought the house, but this back part has started seeding itself. I've encouraged it to, because I'm extremely fond of Alchemilla, which is a very much part of English gardens in the summer. I've got some in the beds here. We love roses. We've got some lovely Nevada roses here, some alliums, a beech tree. We've got foxgloves, honeysuckle, clematis, and on this side, I think, oh yeah, we've got some lovely white, sort of very pale pink peony roses, which are a great favourite. They're all probably from a very well-known British, I was going to say breeder, but no, grower of roses. He's called David Austin, and he's extremely famous, and he grows all the best roses in England. And I've got a lovely honeysuckle growing up the side, which will smell fantastic, and a lot more box and rosemary. Well, you're quite lucky today, because behind where the camera is actually a rockery. And a rockery, I don't notice it anymore, can be very, very noisy. But they are obviously off somewhere today, and I'm very fond of them. But we have endless, wonderful birds here. That being said, we also have a couple of barn owls that live in the walkway, which are beautiful. When I first came here, there were some white doves, which I haven't seen for a while. I'd long for them to come back, but the sparrowhawks may easily get them. But it's a very natural habitat for birds out here. We have it's delightful, and but you have to, when you live with it all the time, you have to remember to properly listen to it. The total part of our garden is actually not very large. It feels bigger because it after the hedge is a wilder part, which we've kept rather like that and very natural. It's full of cow parsley. It had bluebells. It had crocuses. It had snowdrops, and then we mow it back in about the middle of June to have some paths that go through it. But the whole acreage is under 2 acres. But because you can hardly see the wall, it seems to run away into the fields below. So it feels much bigger than it is. But we keep this bit quite well closed because of the dogs. I don't want them running off. So they are pretty safe in here. This is the back of the house, but we can get to the front. These are rather interesting, actually. These steps, we bought a whole lot of salvaged millstones and have used them to make paths and steps here, because they fit in with the whole feel of the house much better. You'll see in the ground we've got quite a lot of them here, and they make a really good basis for the stairs. It's a shame this is not actually, it's about to get trimmed, but this is some pleached limes, which are fantastic cover. It's a very small road, the other side of that. It's a B road. We get more cyclists than we do cars, but it's nice to have that privacy. Nobody can see in from there. At the top here, we've got some fantastic topiary, which is very old. It's been there longer than we have. So it's probably 30 years old. And as I said earlier, we are very careful with it because box can get a blight, a caterpillar blight, and it would be a tragedy to lose all this work. So this is the front of the house that has a smallish terrace, but we use it a lot. We resurfaced it a couple of years ago because the frost gets it from time to time. We've got a very ancient pear tree there. And more box, but this gets the morning sun, so we tend to use it in the mornings. Okay, I'm just going to take you across the lawn here to my guest cottage. So this building was actually just housed the oil tanks and the mowers and that sort of thing, but it was already structurally here and only had 3 walls, so we had to build the front out. But what we've managed to do here is have 2 very comfortable bedrooms with their own bathrooms, and a sitting room in the middle, and it's very nice and quiet. And I'll just take you into the other bedroom because I've got a bed here that I had made about 35 years ago, and it looks it's fitted in here beautifully. We call this the tower bedroom. And so it's a lovely place to stay. I find my guests rather like having the privacy that they get here. And I make sure that they can make tea and coffee and things like that if they want to. But it's a very, it's a nice, comfortable place to stay, which I can close off if it's not being used. We do have people to stay quite often, especially at this time of year. It's the sort of time of year when the garden's at its best. It's much easier to entertain if you could do a bit of it outside. But throughout the year, I have a full house at Christmas usually. I have family to stay. I have friends who come and stay. And so we really get full use out of it. It's a nice little enclave of its own. It's just across the lawn, so it's not far away, but it means that all of our guests get a bit of privacy as well. It's very quiet, and we can make it very sort of dark, and so people seem to sleep very well here. Homeworthy, it's been so nice to have you here. I'm so pleased you've brought the good weather with you, and thank you for letting me show you around my quite eccentric home, as I said in the first place. Thank you for coming.
On today's episode of Homeworthy, one of our favorite hosts, Ruth McKinney, is taking us to the charming town of Lambertville, New Jersey, to meet her friend Cara Brown. Cara, who is a jewelry designer, shows us around her 300-year-old home that's filled to the brim with curiosities and collections.
This little old house is my jewel box. I'm a jewelry designer. This is an extension
of who you are,
of who I am, and it is each little piece in every corner tells a story, and it's the story of my family's life. It's the story of my travels, and someday when I'm not here, I hope that my grandchildren will love these things, and but there'll be enough to go around to everybody.
I am gonna say, if you ever try to move from this place, Lord help your husband.
Plus, incredible flea market finds.
This is a Chanel button mold that I'm not sure that the dealer knew what he had. So I picked this up for $10.
So come along with these two friends for a home tour you won't want to miss. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Welcome, Homeworthy. My name is Ruth McKinney, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend Cara. She has the cutest house in Lambertville, New Jersey, and let's take a look. Hi.
Welcome, Homeworthy.
Thank you. Come on, let's go look at your living room.
Amazing. Let's go.
Hi, I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend Cara. I think often, my favorite house stories or when a home tells the story of the person who lives there. And I think what you're going to find as we go around Cara's house is that her home tells her story. So welcome.
Thank you.
Where
for having me.
are we? Where are we?
We are in New Jersey, right in the middle of the state. Lambertville is my mailing address.
Oh my goodness. Now, how long have you been here?
We have been here since 2005. So the longest I've ever lived anywhere, actually.
And you're here from Texas, right?
Originally from Texas, grew up there. My husband did as well. My kids were all born in Texas, but we're here. We're misplaced Texans in New Jersey. But no one knows how good New Jersey is.
Well, you've made me a believer. How old is this house?
The house was built in 1724, so we're coming up on the 300th year next year.
You're like 5 years younger than our house. We're like right in that same,
Really?
1717. Okay. So it's really fun. How did we meet?
We originally met at a trunk show of mine. Small little get together on the main line, and
A trunk show for what?
for my jewelry. I hand make necklaces out of old things, and one-of-a-kind pieces that are just an art piece for someone to wear and enjoy with their fine jewelry.
And I think we initially, we had an instant connection, and you said, will you throw me a trunk show? And that's how we started.
That's how we started.
Okay. Okay, Cara, what room are we in right now?
We are in my favorite room of the house. This is my dining room. This was the very first room built for this home in 1724.
Hence the low, I mean, I can touch the beam.
Which I feel like they're their own art piece, like representing American history right here.
Right.
So,
which there's a lot of American history in here.
there is. Right. I have an American flag in my, this does not work. We're not burning the flag. Okay. Yeah. But this is an antique American flag from early 1900s, but my son is in the Navy. So this is just, I love that the fact that there's an anchor in the flag and stars and stripes. We've got it all. And then I have this eagle right here by an amazing wood carver, Will Couts. And even though it looks old and he's made it look like there's so much history in it, it just was delivered about a month ago.
Wow,
and I feel like it just makes the mantle.
And again, I love the fact that your son, who's a Navy SEAL, you know, is involved. And it all represents that. All right, tell us about your table.
I love setting the table. You know, it always is a little hard for me to get going, but once I do, I love taking the time and just enjoying the process. I started with this container by a friend of mine, Jen Figgy, with Figgy Floral. She made this piece, and it doesn't matter what I put in it, it makes my table beautiful. I can just throw things in from my yard. These berries are from my yard. Another friend of mine made all these little pumpkins, and it just fit perfectly in this container.
It did.
I love pulling out the silver from both my husband's grandmother and my grandmother. Both had Francis I. And I feel like in today's world, a lot of times we don't take the time to actually use what we have. You know, so
I believe in using your good china and your silver all the time.
Me too. So I can't say that I do it on a regular basis, but for special occasions of people coming home, I make sure to pull out my silver. And actually, it's my husband who loves, you know, the whole process as well. So
I love it. Okay, can I tell you, this is one of my favorite things in this dining room. What you can't see is there's an entire mural done on every wall. Tell me.
Well, so I've always loved Gracie Studios hand-painted wallpapers, and for this room, we really decided we wanted to do our own thing and have an artist come in. Her name is Carol Nagel, and she's out of Doylestown. And so we had her paint the scene of our property as if we were driving in the driveway.
That.
So this is our field across here.
I tried to get my husband to buy into this, and we're working on it.
We'll work on him.
We'll
get him.
I love it. I love it. What quirks? Because your ceilings, so I also live in a farmhouse, as you know, but our ceilings are high.
You have Center Hall Colonial.
Yes, these ceilings are low.
Yes. So our house was originally built by French Huguenots who escaped from France for religious freedom. And this is the second edition where we're right now. This was around 1760. As we go through the house today, the original part,
your dining room,
my dining room, is 1724, and we haven't had to do a lot. We bought this house from a family who had been in the wife's family for 110 years, and the husband, they bought it in 1981, and the husband was a contractor. So he lifted up the floorboards and put down heating, and they now, you know, they had running water and all of that kind of thing that we thankfully were able to just move in and enjoy. We've done some updating, but
yours has been more cosmetic, I think, like
more cosmetic for sure. Thankfully, you know, we've had to learn how to, in these small rooms, incorporate all of our furniture. When we moved from Texas, we had a 6,000 square foot house, and I wasn't quite ready to let go of all my treasures, but
Really?
slowly through the years, I have edited, and I'm always editing because I love.
Yeah, but you're not like Bob and I. We love, so we moved every 18 months flipping houses.
Yes.
My favorite day of the year was when that big trash bin would come.
No, I would be like, I probably would be
was like,
jumping into that.
Okay. I was literally like, let's get rid of once a year, just kind of purge. That would be like your worst day.
Well, I do. Now I do feel like the problem for me is I do feel like all of my things are treasures. Okay. So now that my 2 of my kids are out of the house and have their own home, okay, I'm passing treasures onto them.
I did. I went into her bedroom right before this and I said, what are all these paintings along the wall? Can I buy one? She's like, those are for my kids. So you are constantly collecting. Okay, let's talk about collections real quick.
Sure.
How do you determine what you're going to collect? And we'll go around and see some of your collections, but
yes,
are there certain things that you love to collect, or is it?
Well, I'll show you, I think if the lighting is good, I'd love to show you my miniature chair collection, because that started, let me go back a little bit. Growing up, I loved miniatures. Little things. I always wanted a dollhouse with little tiny things because I just thought they were so amazing. Like, who made little things? Like it's just.
I never wondered.
Well, so my great grandmother had a little tiny chair that was from her collection, and my mom always put it on her mantle, like this little, just one little tiny thing in, in a scale of bigger 14-foot ceilings.
Right.
And I was obsessed with it. So my mom eventually gave it to me, and through the years, I just started collecting little chairs.
Where do you find little chairs?
People give them to me. It's so funny because people, as I go in my travels, I've had people say, I collect little chairs. I'm bringing you one from my collection. And so now I have a whole long line of miniature chairs, but it all started with this love of little things and seeing my great-grandmother's intricate little sterling chair. I think that's probably also why I love jewelry, because I use my hands to create something beautiful out of little things. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little crazy.
I love meeting someone who has a completely different skill set than me.
Everybody has a
I'm
different
big
brain,
picture.
right?
Yeah.
You are.
I'm big picture.
Yes.
Don't worry me.
Yes, absolutely. So this is one of my favorite pieces of furniture. When we were first married, I wanted to have a Welsh dresser. My mother-in-law had one, and my father-in-law has one, and I just loved the look. So for our very first home, this was one of the first pieces of furniture that we bought. The fun thing about this is that all of these Staffordshire pieces were my husband's grandmother's, and I love just the history of having that in our home, but also I love Staffordshire. I love Amari china. This is one of our first purchases outside of our china that we registered for as a couple. We've been married almost 30 years, and we both love just the thrill of the hunt and finding special things. But this piece of furniture, this Welsh dresser, holds some of our favorite things in this home. So it's a precious place in this corner. In the traveling for my business, I love going to flea markets. I love my kids. The joke was growing up that I would stop on the side of the road for any trash heap to see what treasures might be in there. And as people have interviewed me through the years, they've said I should have been a pirate because I'm always looking for the hidden treasure. Well, one morning after dropping my son off at the airport at like 5 a.m., my husband and I decided, okay, we're going to go to the flea market early. This is when all of the true dealers get there and find the finds. Well, I walked by this painting and I didn't think my husband would like it, but we both looked at it and we're like, oh my gosh, we have to bring that home. And I think I paid about $225 for the painting. Come to find out, there is a museum for this artist in Arizona, and it's worth thousands of dollars. So that was just a real high for me because I just love finding. I didn't even know that it was still possible in this day and age, but you can still find those hidden treasures out there, and and bring them home.
Okay, Cara, what is the favorite thing you've done in your home?
My favorite room is my dining room. I do love the, let me preface this. My home is a little bit like a hobbit house.
That is true.
Low ceilings. When we first moved in here, we had lots of boxes, as you can imagine, and my husband was like, I'm feeling claustrophobic. We've moved into a hobbit house. This is not going to work.
No.
And now he has relaxed 20 years later, realizing that it is a little jewel box. But I love my dining room. It has the original walk-in fireplace. It's not functioning currently, but I think there's just a warmth there. I love the table. I love when we're all together.
Well,
for
and
a
it's the
special
place
meal.
you break bread together.
Absolutely. Well, and it's in the center of our house. So you can't walk anywhere in our house without going through the dining room. And it's breaking bread. It's a place where we all actually take time to sit, relax. We're all very hard workers in our family. And it's just a time of being together and resting and eating. And there's just something to that.
There's something to that. So how did you even get into jewelry? And I think that's a fascinating, because I think it has to do, and Christmas is coming, but I
Yes,
think it has
absolutely.
to do with ornaments.
It
So would
does.
you tell us that story?
Absolutely. I graduated from Vanderbilt and moved back to my hometown, and a good friend of mine and I started making Christmas ornaments out of antique jewelry. It had been a long legacy in her family of her great Aunt Hattie making beautiful Christmas ornaments. And I remember going to a book study at her house, and these ornaments were all over her table. And I told her, I said, when you're missing several of your pieces, they're at my home, because I will have
you're
stolen
saying
them.
jewelry, and I need you to, ornaments?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So-
are you talking about a ball that you've stuck something in, or what are you talking about?
Way more detailed. So similar to what you might have seen from your great aunt making in the 50s, these were jewel encrusted balls. So it took us, we didn't have kids, we were newly married, and it took us between 6 and 8 hours to make each Christmas ornament.
Wow.
But we were selling them also at little trunk shows and a couple boutiques in Fort Worth. And Neiman Marcus ended up finding out about our little business, and the two of us went to a meeting with the Christmas buyer, and she said she'd take 200.
And that's where it all started.
That's where it all started.
And you jumped from there to jewelry.
Well, I raised my kids for 18 years, and my middle one is special needs. So that took a lot of my time. But I just loved handmade pieces. I loved necklaces, because I don't personally change out any of my other jewelry other than my necklaces. And after my oldest left for college, I decided to make a necklace out of some of my old things left over from my Neiman Marcus days. And literally people started buying them off my neck. I never thought I'd have that kind of story, but it was really a fun.
And then you got into, is it Barney's?
So my first store was here in Princeton, Zoe, and then my next store was on Nantucket, and those two shops that really believed in me always hold just a special place in my heart, because that broke the ice for me. But then after I was selling to those two places, I ended up getting an interview with Barney's, and they were my third store, my big first store.
All right, we are on our way to the living room, but we're stopping in my personal favorite place, and that's the entryway to this house. There is so much light. I mean, you have this amazing brick floor, and I just want to kind of ask Cara, is this an addition or was this here?
This was an addition. The structure was here. It was a outdoor porch. So when we moved in, we didn't have an entry, and I always think an entry is very important. So, and we also had this piece of furniture from my husband's grandmother that was too tall to fit in any other spot of the house. So we built a room for the furniture. But the brick floor is original, and all we did was just add the walls. So.
Right. I mean, even how you layer your pictures and paintings along a window. I mean, you've mixed sculptures, you've mixed art. It's amazing.
Well,
I mean, and there's no telling. It might be butterflies. It's beautiful.
The interesting thing is that I try to keep a lot of my colors neutral, but then add pops of color in unexpected places. So this
Hence,
painting,
Elizabeth Endress.
Elizabeth Endress's painting here, I got to buy this from her when she was in art school.
And she's the one, you took me to her house, and I have a huge one over my bed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And
All
it,
right.
it just, I love that it's fresh and modern mixed in with a lot of my old collected family heirlooms.
And my husband would love that there's no people in there.
Yes. I love the tablescape. This secretary was in my husband's family. It was his grandmother's, and she loved to go to New Orleans and buy antiques. And so when she passed away, it was something that we wanted to have in our home. I don't ever really change this backdrop. I love all the treasures that are in there. They are old books, some Staffordshire, some china, but I do change this quite often. And right now it's housing a terrarium that I found at a thrift store. When I got it, it was full of rocks, and I don't think people could see the beauty of it, but this piece is probably from around 1910, and I just love putting like flowers from my yard just a little haphazardly in there to add just a fresh touch, but still they last a long time when they're in this terrarium. That same house sale that Ruth talked about, I found this pair of reverse painted vases, and even though they're chipped and the paint is peeling a little bit, I just love how they look with telling a story. So obviously they're old, they're a little cracked, but their beauty just still shines through. This is one of my favorite little vignettes. I have a Navy man here for my son who's in the Navy. Just collected pieces from a friend of mine who does art, Katie Robinson, and this is another Elizabeth Endress. One of the most interesting things too is this stag bust or head that you see here, and that actually belonged to Georgia O'Keeffe. It's on the back. My husband ended up getting it from a friend of his in Princeton, and it had been given to her and brought back after she passed away, and I get to have a piece of another artist here in my home that's very well known. This is just a fun little thing. Every day my son who lives here with us comes and flips the calendar. So I try to have things in our house that not just look pretty, but also our family gets to enjoy. And he has special needs, but one of his favorite things is to check off the calendar every day. So in all areas of the house, he has a little calendar to flip or check or mark off, and it just gives him joy while he's home too. When I first moved to New Jersey, I really feel like I had a black thumb, but we do live in the Garden State. And I now belong to a garden club, Stony Brook Garden Club. And so in different places in my house, I do love now having live plants. I'm coming a long way. I'm not killing everything that I own now. But I did just bring these inside because we started getting a frost. And so my little lemon tree, we brought it in. Not that there's a lot of room for it right now, but I just want to save it and see how it's going to grow and change as it makes it through the winter in my home, and survive the frost in my front room. So I love having the greenery, the different textures, and just more oxygen in the house.
So you're not you don't just collect art, you are an artist. And I love that.
A little bit of the above.
You've given me an art, and I'm going to tell this really funny story. Well, it's fun. So anyone who's read my book knows that I frame my kids' things all over my house, because part of me telling my family's story has been through I have 5 kids, all of their artwork. So when I came to your house and I saw what real art, and let's be clear, I'm not saying my children's things aren't real art, but you gave me an appreciation for looking outside of that. And you said, well, you know what, why don't you and Bob come to this young lady's house? Actually, she had a little apartment not too far from here. I was like, where is she sleeping? We walk in and like wall to wall canvases. And we're looking at this art, and my husband, you know, Bob, we're in the middle of all of our house renovations. Yes. So there wasn't a lot of extra money for art. And he looks at me and he's like, have you seen the prices? And I was like, shh. And he said, Ruth, let's stop at home, get a canvas. I can paint this. Because it wasn't like some beautiful landscape. It was color and just a mishmash of, and he was like, I can do this. So we get home and I bought a painting because you said, Ruth, I promise in a few years you're not going to be able to pick up her work.
Yes.
And which did turn out to be true. And I put this painting over my bed, which, by the way, you were 100% right. It brought life to my room. But we put it over my bed, and my husband says to me, well, at least you didn't get one of those paintings that had all those distorted people. And I was like, honey, I want you to look a little more careful at that picture. It's a tea party. It actually has women all around. And he was like, oh my word. But it's turned out to be one of our favorite pieces in the house.
Sure.
So you just have a unique ability. I mean, every time I talk to you, you've bought another piece of art. And I'm like, where else are you going to put it? And I think I came in one day, and we'll show this later, but it's a Campbell's soup picture. You just have a way of curating a room that is different than anyone that I've ever known. And so that's kind of what I want to learn from you is how do you choose things? What makes you choose things? Is how do you make, you know, I'm going to give you another example. A lot of people are minimalists, and they take pride in being minimalists. And what I mean by that is they want clean lines. They don't want stuff. They don't want stacks. Less is more.
Yes.
I met you, and more is more.
So my hashtag is not a minimalist.
Okay, no, you are a maximalist. So how do you do that in a way that doesn't make someone feel claustrophobic or, you know, clutter?
Great
and
question.
So that's what I kind of want to know.
Okay. So,
if I attempted this, it would not happen.
well, part of my, I would say, problem is that through my business, I travel.
You're self-aware. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that. It's a problem. No.
Yeah, it is a problem.
All right, go ahead.
Part of my business is traveling around, and I get to meet so many artisans as I go across the country. And I'm usually selling with people who are so talented, and as I meet them, I want a piece of them in my home. Like I can't leave that moment without bringing them home with me. So I've also learned, I think the big question for me is I edit all the time. I'm always moving things around. My, you know, I would say every week I'm moving something, but it makes it fun.
Right.
It's not something that I see as a chore.
Right.
I really see it as, like you said, like this little old house is my jewel box. Yes. I'm a jewelry designer. This is an extension of who I am, and it is each little piece in every corner tells a story, and it's the story of my family's life. It's the story of my travels. And, you know, someday when I'm not here, I hope that my grandchildren will love these things. And but there'll be enough to go around to everybody.
I am going to say, if you ever try to move from this place,
I'm not
Lord
moving.
help your husband. But I love it. All right, so I think we're coming into your living room now. And one of the most interesting things in here is this tablescape. Tell me about it.
So, like I said earlier, that I love little things. And as I've grown up, I can't have dolls and doll furniture. So this is kind of my version of my little things, but still a grown-up version where I have an whale's tooth. We go to Nantucket in the summers, and this is a whale's tooth from about 1860 that was probably the start. It was the start to my collection.
So I have to tell you, all the times I've been here, I thought they were a collection of one thing. They're not.
They're all different.
They're all different.
This, because I love Elizabeth Endress's paintings,
Yes.
she painted this little box for me, and has a little poem for me on the inside. I have new things. I mean, this is a copper box with some jewels in it, but that's not anything old.
Okay. What's going on here?
That's probably from the 1940s. It's Murano glass and just a really cool art piece. I love the color.
No, I love that you throw in a little modern, or what looks to be modern. Let me put it that way.
This is kind of fun. This is from, I make necklaces out of antique horse brasses, and this was also used on the horses' manes and their leather harnesses. But the name of my business is Cara Brown Designs, and here we go. Cara, this is CBDC Limited, but for me, I'm saying Cara Brown Designs Company.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So a little piece of my business here on
I love it.
my crazy. Oh, and here is also, I found this at the flea market. This is a Chanel button mold that I'm not sure that the dealer knew what he had. So I picked this up for $10. So it doesn't matter, what it is. It's just like the things that I love. And I think that helps to tell the story.
Yeah.
I love when I see people who have gallery walls in their home. And in this cottage that we live in, we don't have a lot of wall space. But I did create this one here. My husband and I had traveled to England when I was pregnant with my second son, and we have these to represent that. I love having mirrors. I love having a little bit of modern along with the old. The interesting thing is I just picked up this painting by Ed Rice in Augusta, Georgia last week, and I knew I had just a little spot for it, so it had to come home with me in my suitcase. I also love when people have pianos in their home, and for me, when we first moved in this house, my daughter took piano lessons. I don't think she could play a lick if you asked her today, but I love the idea of music, so that if somebody does come into your home, there's an opportunity for them to play. So I've used my piano to display photographs. I have a local friend who's an artist who did this sculpture of this bird, Mira, and she's in my garden club, and she is from Poland and just does a beautiful job with sculpting.
All right, can you tell me what is this?
So that is an old merry-go-round that a Baptist preacher built on Nantucket around 1890. And I just happened to be at one of my favorite haunts, the Hospital Thrift Store on Nantucket. And there were a couple of pieces of his that had just been donated, and I just had to make sure that I came home with it. My husband loved it too.
It's beautiful, and I love that it can get lost, but yet it's its own piece.
It's neutral, so it does blend in, but I love having a bit of whimsy with an old toy mixed in with fine antiques. The David painting.
And you were the first person, actually, that really encouraged me to recover things from old fabric. And you took me to a place, was it in Princeton?
No, it was in New Hope.
Okay, you took me to a place in Home. It was this huge kind of mansion, old.
Yes.
And were they collectors of fabric?
They, so the mother was an interior designer and in the New Hope area, and the son, she'd passed away, and the son is also an interior designer. But they were trying to, more of an estate sale type thing.
Floor to ceiling, every floor of this house was covered in bolts of fabric. And I mean, literally 15 deep, and old furniture. And you walk in there with me, you said, I think Charlotte Moss went and got, who else? I mean, major designers were going.
Okay. I think she was the biggest one.
She's and we'd come in and go, oh, you can tell Charlotte was just here. But anyway, so we go in and you're like, no, that fabric, that texture, you need to combine with that, and then go swap out your furniture. So you taught me that as well, and I've really appreciated that.
Well, I it's a joy for me. I love helping people make the most out of what they have. And I think that, you know, part of also my story is that I grew up with a mother that is an interior designer. She went back to school when I was about 10 years old and got her degree. And, you know, it was before there were a lot of decorators out there. Like, she really went and got her, you know, went back to school and learned, you know, I saw her doing CAD drawings in the middle of the night. And she worked really hard to be able to do that. But what it instilled in me was I loved seeing her repurpose old things in people's homes and bring the history out, because I feel like that if you just don't have the history, I mean, for me, I have to tell stories. Some people just live and don't, and just they go in and out of their homes. But for me, my home is going to tell my story and my family's story and the legacy of my grandparents, my husband's parents and grandparents. And it just means more as I live in this space to have the history around me. So I just feel like that generations are important.
Well, and you clearly learned that from your mom. And, you know, another example was I brought you all my jewelry, and I don't have very much, but a lot of it I never wear because I thought, well, it's out of style. I had one of those gold charm bracelets that my husband for each of my children had bought a charm, and I'm like, I don't wear this anymore. And you said, all right, let's make it into a necklace. And so you helped me repurpose that into a necklace. Or my daughter, my oldest, just got married in September, and I said I had this old aquamarine tennis bracelet when I graduated law school. I don't wear it. And you said, all right, let's take some stones out. Let's make earrings for your daughter. So I love, again, your attention to not losing the history and the meaning behind something, and the creativity that you use to bring it, you know, to make it current. So I love that.
Well, it's not work for me. It's my pleasure. Like, I really enjoy, I just did it for another friend of mine in Augusta, Georgia. And it didn't take me, 15 minutes to go through her jewelry box. And I just said, get rid of this. Let's put this charm on this chain. We're going to update it. She didn't spend any money, and now she has a whole new jewelry box full of treasures that have been in her family that she didn't know how to wear, and it makes me so happy.
All right, let's go into what you call your world travel room.
Yes, absolutely. Let's go. So this is my world travels room. I love, everywhere I go, I love bringing home a souvenir, and this is kind of my outlet for that. I have old things, new things. I have Paulo Costa's modern art mixed in with a little bit of sculpture that is a local artist, and as well as I love old toll painted pieces. So it's a bit of art. It's an art room that just is an expression of our travels, which I really enjoy.
Now we're in my other favorite room, and maybe there's so much light, I love it, but this is the breakfast area of the kitchen. And Cara, I want you to come on in and tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, I love sitting at this table, and I don't ever get tired of the view. It's peaceful, it is beautiful, it changes with the seasons. This is one of my favorite rooms just because of the light, the view, the change of seasons. I get to look at it as I'm taking phone calls and doing paperwork and making necklaces. I do a lot at this kitchen table. Yesterday I was out in my garden.
I can eat this.
You can eat this.
Okay, it's chard.
Yes, this is Swiss chard, and it was the last of the vegetables from my garden.
I'm surprised you have anything left because mine's gone. So
I know, and I saw it after I'd cut it in a basket, and I just thought, why not put it in the middle of the table, and
why not?
Anyone can just chew on it.
I was going to say, add a little salad dressing. There you go.
Exactly. So this room experiences a lot of life. One of the treasures that I found when I was first married and haunting estate sales whenever I could spare the time, I found this needlepoint piece here, and it's really long, and I couldn't bear to cut it up. It's about, I think, really about 12 to 13 feet long. And I never had a home where I could display it. It didn't work anywhere until we moved into this house. And so I just knew, you know, it is a little, definitely old world, but I mix it in with modern art. But it's just one of those things that whoever spent the time to do this needlepoint, to make each stitch and make each scene, I felt like just needed to be honored, because I can't imagine the time and energy it took for that person in the 1800s to make this piece, and I get to enjoy it now in 2023. So like I had talked about before, I am in a garden club, and I actually am able to keep things alive now. This is a fiddle leaf fig that I bought at Costco, I think for $19.99. And it was just a baby, but it has loved this space so much. I've had to cut it back because it was growing along the ceiling, and my husband and family were like, the plant is going to take over the kitchen. I don't know where else I can move it, but it's just so happy. So like seeing it be happy makes me happy. Sometimes I'll come back from being out of town and it's a little sad looking. It needs water, but between the water and a little food, it is I think it's trying to take over.
Do I recognize this?
Absolutely. I could not have my kitchen function without Hungry for Home. Funny enough, this is my favorite recipe. I am a chocolate chip cookie girl, and Ruth's chocolate chip cookies are the best anywhere. So I love that they're a little bit half baked. And of course you can see here I am with my marked spot right here.
I love it. And you know
ready
what?
to go.
We're getting ready to sell them at something called Yuletide that's happening in Philadelphia. So I have to bake about 1,000 of these this weekend. So
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm hoping they're going to be at our barn sale.
I know. They're going to be at the barn sale.
I have to have one of I actually have to say they're better when she makes them. Maybe it's just because
Do you know I've had people reach out to me, and so on my Instagram, on Hungry for Home, I've actually done a tutorial because people are like, why are they different when you cook them? And I'm like, I think anything's better than when somebody else cooks them, though.
It is. It's true, but it's also about the timing.
Yeah,
it's either the 4 or 6 minutes. I can't remember right now, but it's like
they're barely baked.
They're barely baked, and they are perfection.
All right, so Cara, I want to know how you got here from Texas. I mean, Texans are Texans.
Completely.
And Texans don't go anywhere else, and I know that because I know some. So how did you get from Texas to, first of all, New Jersey? And not to knock New Jersey, but that's just not the, I don't know the connection.
For a Texan, the word New Jersey is a bad word.
Okay.
But my husband and I have both fallen in love with this state. I mean, no one knows how amazing it is. We originally came in 2001. We moved to the Northeast 2 weeks before 9/11 happened. Okay. And we originally came for my husband to go to seminary in Philadelphia. Okay. And he'd been in the business world, but decided that he felt like his calling really was to do marriage and family counseling. Okay. And so we packed up, moved up here, and ended up in New Jersey for his job. But thankfully, I wouldn't have been able to do what I do without being this close to the city. Yeah. It was easy for me to meet with Saks, to meet with Barney's, to go meet with Harper's Bazaar, like all of those things. If I lived in Texas, I don't know if I would have been brave enough to do all of that.
Well, you were kind of forced out of a comfort zone.
I completely was. Yeah. And we really feel like New Jersey is small town Texas. Like Texas is losing a little bit of.
It is. It's a little bit of Texas.
So, my kids got to grow up in a small town where they could walk from school to the ice cream store or get pizza. And, we had Main Street parades, flag waving USA. Like, it grabbed our hearts. And we've really we haven't just lived here because we've had to. We've lived here loving it.
And you're not just living in southern New Jersey, which is very different, I feel like, than this area, which basically is the art world.
Well, and we
And-
we
and
live 20
antique
minutes
world.
from Princeton. So between the education and this area, it's really a delight. Like,
And your husband's not still doing marriage counseling. He's back in the business world.
He's back in the business world. He is in telehealth and using his giftings. I'm getting to use my giftings with our kids all grown and out of the house.
Well, and I love too, because you do have a special needs child who's a little older now, but this area has really given him an opportunity, and we work and different things like that.
Completely. We are here, we love it, but we're also here for him because he feels purpose each day, going to work and being with his friends, and he's so joyful in his day. So we're here for the long haul.
All right, so one of my favorite things that I love is down your stairs. You have actually one of my favorite verses. So tell us about that.
So we just wanted a statement about what our home represented, and love this verse from Proverbs. It's Proverbs 24:3, and it says, "Through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established." And so if we were just to choose something, an overarching theme for our home,
your home,
this is it.
I love it.
So
I love it. So take us upstairs.
let's go.
Okay, Cara, let's go into my favorite room. Another favorite. I mean, how many favorites can I have? This one you call your playroom, and I love it because there's joy in here. There's like color, and you've mixed so many whimsical type things. So tell us about this room.
So originally this was the playroom. This is where we had our kids' toys when we first moved in here because they were really young. And as they grew up and as we matured in this house, we have changed that to, we still call it the playroom, but it's
TV
still,
room?
it's where we watch TV. It's actually where I make my necklaces at night. If I didn't make necklaces at night, I'd fall asleep and not be able to stay up for the movies that we watch. So again, it's another mixture of old things, whether it be folk art from the 1800s to a modern art piece here of this rooster. I love roosters. I don't know what it is. They just have so much character, and they're a little bit crazy and a little bit like me.
Well, and there's another Elizabeth Endress right here that I love. It's over our bed at our home.
Yes, I have her paintings probably in every room because I would say she probably is one of my favorite artists. So I don't know if we want to walk into my daughter's room.
Why don't you walk into
come on in.
Your daughter's room.
It's the same extension of what we've done throughout the house, but as my daughter has now grown up and moved to LA, we changed her room just a little bit to just make it more mature. One of the things that I did was I had added a touch of color to this cabinet here that had been in my husband's family, and I had a company called Shedworks come and turn this from just a natural color brown to more of a modern green with a lacquer coating. And my husband originally said, okay, that is going to clash with everything in the room. And instead, both my daughter and myself think it is just so fun. It's one of my favorite things in this room now. But I do love just using this room for when she comes home, but also when we have guests, which we have guests coming today. Just having a place where there is a little bit of detail in the room, but also not too much, so that they can feel restful as well when they're in my home. So I love the bright colors. Again, Elizabeth Endress art, and just a bit of history from the books that my daughter read as she grew up in this room. It's a happy place. I talked about coming from Texas, and this rug was something that we had bought for actually my daughter's nursery. And we are collectors, so as time has passed, we find it's not that we buy things for each room. We buy things that we love, and then we make it work. So that is sort of how the maximalist approach has worked in this house, rather than minimalist, but they are all things that we have chosen because of the joy it gives us rather than putting together the room all at one time. My look is collected, and it definitely is that. It has happened over time, one piece at a time, through 30 years of marriage, and both our families contributing to our home, which gives it the story. So along with this painted lacquer cabinet by Shedworks, I have a modern lamp here. I love lucite. I think that the clear nature of lucite, whether it be on beads that I use or in my home, just adds that fun modern touch. This lamp I actually bought for my daughter. She just moved to LA, and we had bought it for her apartment out there, and we couldn't fit it. As you can imagine, taking things from our home, we couldn't fit it on the moving truck. It was the last thing to try to be shoved in her truck, but it didn't fit. So I was like, you know what? It's staying here at my house. I love it so much. So it's here in her room waiting for her to enjoy when she comes home for Christmas.
So I'm excited. I haven't been here since you redid your gardens and you built the shed where you sell your jewelry. So let's go show everyone.
Let's go.
Okay, so I remember when this wasn't here.
Yes.
And I love it. You actually use it both for gardening as well as your kind of office.
We do. Welcome to my studio.
First of all, what do you grow in here?
We grow all kinds of things. Like the Swiss chard that you saw in the kitchen just came out of this bed yesterday. We have all kinds of lettuces that they're still trying to peek through after the freeze. We have peppers over there. I have herbs all in here.
Didn't you have an apple here at one point?
Yeah, I do. It's inside right now. The apple resides right here in the middle of this area. It's just with the freeze, I just want to make sure that I get to enjoy it for years instead of a season.
Well, open the doors. Let's see. I mean, we'll stay out here, but we'll look into it.
Yes. So this is my studio. The same artist that painted my dining room painted the mural in this room as well. When I have clients come to look at jewelry, I bring everything out here and they get to sit and try things on, and it's a little space, but it's just a joyful space. So it makes me happy, it makes others happy, and I love that it is still an extension of my home with a mixture, again, of old and new. And it is my take on a she shed and my space to have clients come and meet with me. But we also get to entertain out here. We've had a few cocktail parties that start here. So it's multi-purposed for our family, but also just a great space for clients. They don't have to come into my kitchen and try necklaces on anymore. They get to come here.
So what is home to you? If you were to like close out your book, or my book is called Hungry for Home, close that out with what home is to you, what would it be?
It's rest.
I love that.
Just a place where my family can come, where I can come and exhale. And that's what I do. Like if I'm traveling, or there's just something about walking in the door or driving up the driveway and just being, I'm home.
Rest. I love it. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to show everyone around.
Yay!
On today's episode of Homeworthy, we are in Boston, Massachusetts, visiting the home of Whitney Talsma, the founder and lead designer of Oliver James Interiors. Whitney and her family live in a charming 1814 Federal-style farmhouse that boasts incredible historic charm and beautiful gardens. She has made an effort to add her own personal design touches while celebrating the original details of the home. Whitney loves hunting for vintage furniture and decor at antique shows and flea markets, blending these pieces with her newer items for a lived-in look with stories to tell. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, my name's Whitney Talsma and welcome to my home in Boston, Massachusetts. Hi, my name is Whitney Talsma and I am an interior designer in Metro West Boston. I take care of residential homes and design them for families, young professional couples, and absolutely love my job. My family and I, which includes my husband, my son Theo, and my daughter Willow, we have lived in this house just under 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August. And this house is a really special home. It is called Stonewall Gardens, and it is actually on the National Register of Historic Homes by the Department of State, which is really exciting. It was established in 1814, so it's over 200 years old, which is amazing. But it has such a modern living feel. It's such a great flow to the house, tall ceilings, big windows, super charming. We love this home. This family, the original family that lived here, they were in the leather whip making business for stagecoaches. So they would make 20-foot long whips. There was agriculture on the land, so lots of like cranberry bogs in the area, apple fields. So a lot going on this property, which I think is why it makes it so special. And there was even a little shoe shop on the property as well. And you will hear a little story later about some old shoes that we found. So my style is kind of a little mix of different things. So definitely colorful, lots of pattern, whimsical and cheerful, and there's a little touch of femininity, but you will also find some areas too that have a masculine feel. I absolutely love florals. You will find florals everywhere in patterns and art, and just fresh flowers around the house. So that is definitely like the core of my design style. I would also say that I do also love like traditional, you could say like grand millennial as well, English cottage, refined rustic, and then definitely those like moodier masculine spaces as well. So I am a little bit all over the place, but it allows me to be creative and kind of explore some different design styles. All right, welcome to our formal entry. We don't actually use this entry very much because the front door does not have a sidewalk leading up to it. It really is just granite steps leading into the grass, but this is a federal farmhouse style, so really it's laid out in the federal architecture way. But I have definitely made the most of this entryway because it's got a beautiful stairwell. You can see the detail on the steps, and then I added my gallery wall, which you'll be able to see, and lots of my favorite art. So I don't know if you've heard of Mary McGuire. She's one of my favorites. She has kind of all of the teal blue backgrounds, and then I've kind of sprinkled in some of the others, artists that I love as well. Another really cool thing about the front entry is this beautiful door hardware. I believe it is original to the house, which is pretty special. It is a very heavy latch, and I have to really put it in my body weight to open it up, but no intruders will get in. And you can see this really pretty unlacquered brass detail as well. So also part of our formal entry is this little vignette that I've put together. And this piece here has come with me since, I think, senior year of high school through all the homes that I've lived in. I'm from Virginia as well as my husband, and this piece I found in Southern Virginia. And it is like an antique piece, and it really has worked well in all the homes, but especially this spot here. It just goes so well with the wallpaper that was put in by the previous owner, and the colors and everything, and just adds that kind of touch of antique feel. And then of course I have my little collected antique books, which you'll see everywhere in the house. But yeah, I just love this little vignette. I've got my pleated lampshade. You'll notice that I love a lot of pleated lampshade scallops. That's like another big feature that I put into my designs. And then my dried hydrangeas and my little straw dogs that I think are just a fun, playful, whimsical touch to our foyer. So this wallpaper here, not necessarily my go-to design style. It was installed by the previous owner, but I have definitely been able to work with it and add my own special touches, just like my gallery wall with all of those nature and botanical art and prints and frames. And I think it just adds, takes these big swaths of wall and makes it more interesting. So I think the previous owner did a really good job adding that. All right, so now we're going to go to our formal living room. So this is our formal living room, which actually isn't so formal. It's right off the playroom. So this is just a space that has this beautiful fireplace. As you can see, it's original to the home. And this is one of 8 fireplaces in the house, but this one we actually can use. It's deep enough. I feel good about it. And we had the fireplace inspected, and the guy who came to inspect it said he was super impressed with the construction, the design inside the fireplace. So I guess when they built it back then, they did a fantastic job. But I just love the beautiful detail that you can see here that really speaks to kind of the federal architecture. And so I love to kind of highlight that. And then you can also see this little cabinet here. We don't know what's behind it. I think it's been sealed shut by paint. We're dying to somehow get it open one day and see what's behind, but it remains a mystery, so who knows. But yeah, so this room definitely is a transition space one day. This is a room on my list that I would love to kind of do a makeover on. I'd love to make this like a cozy den with built-in bookcases, and we can, burn our fires in the winter and just cozy up in the space. But for now, it is a spot where all of our furniture from our old home came in here, and the kids love to jump on the furniture, so it's not too fragile in here, definitely not super formal, but it has really great light, high ceilings, and this wallpaper was installed by the previous owner as well. And then over here, I have kind of my little vignette bookshelf. There aren't a ton of bookshelves here, so I don't have a lot of places to put all my collectibles, but this is definitely a spot where I've hung my plates on the wall that I've collected. These pieces are like Brimfield finds as well. These shaker boxes actually I got locally in town, and the story is that a woman collected each of these boxes. They didn't come as a set, and she spent years collecting the right size boxes and the right colors to create this set. And when I saw it in the antique shop, I fell in love with it and knew I had to have it, but apparently they can go for a lot if well done, so I'm hoping this is a good collection item here, but I didn't have to pay too much for it. And yeah, so this is where I like to display my items. And this here is a clock from my parents, and they passed this down on to me. This was in one of their really old homes in Virginia, and I have since inherited it. And we turned the chimes off because we couldn't manage the chimes every hour, but it still sits pretty here. But yeah, I just love having that piece in here too. And just another old house thing too, you can see just how crooked the door casing is in relation with the ceiling. There's definitely all of those oddities that you will find around the house that it's just an old home thing. So lots of sloping floors. We've got some fireplaces with the little hooks that come out that used to hang kettles. So I just love all the quirks of the old home. But again, this one is just such a great space. It really is fit for modern living. It's got central AC, which is hard to find in an old home, and just such a great layout as well, good flow through the house. When someone is looking to buy an old home, I think taking care of kind of all the foundational pieces first that need some love. Yes, it may be a little bit kind of unsexy, if you will, but taking care of like the roofing, literal foundation, windows, that kind of thing, any safety issues. I think those are like the biggest things to start priority with, and then we can kind of take a look at the other areas of the home that we want to update or modernize a little bit while still keeping that charm and whimsy, because the last thing you want to do is strip away the beautiful historical details in a home. The other side of our formal living room here is our sofas. And again, these are the sofas that the kids jump on, and they're from our old house. But one day I would love to do some sort of like built-in bookcase here with like our love seat sitting in the middle and some sconces. I have this grand plan. I just need to execute it one day when I can afford to. But I have also this table I was inherited from my grandmother as well. And you can notice there's more of the rounded kind of scallop floral edging, but it's a really cool table. I was going to refinish it, but I actually kind of like the dark wood. And this art here is another Switzerland find from my trip last weekend. And this one, I actually wasn't sure if I was gonna bring it back home on the plane or if it was going to make it. I tried to carry it on and they're like, nope, not allowed. So it was wrapped up really well in bubble. Thankfully, the antique shop did a great job with that. And so I sent it to go under the plane and prayed and hoped that it would make it, and it survived. So I just love it. It's a beautiful piece. Again, it's got florals in a vase, common theme in my house. It's oil painting, and then the frame is just beautiful in itself. So this is our little bar cart area. Luckily, the kids don't go near it or touch it, so we're lucky with that. But this is pretty much my husband's collection of alcohol, lots of spirits, some really good ones in there, and he's become really into making cocktails. So he will visit this often and craft something with all the ingredients here. But I think it's just such a great little spot right at the window as you're coming off of the kitchen. All right, now I'd love to show you our kitchen. Follow me. All right, so this is our kitchen. It is probably my second favorite part in the house, or room in the house. And this kitchen, as well as our informal dining room, which you'll see next, is the original part of the home, so 1814. So you can see the ceilings are original to the house. They're rough hewn, adds all that character, charm, and warmth to the space. And this kitchen, when we purchased it, it was a brighter white. It was recently updated, so the countertops were here, a marble with like a touch of green in it. But I decided to take it another step further. And so I added all the beadboard on the walls and on the island as well. I had the island painted, the walls painted a creamier white just to give it, again, a little bit more warmth to the space. Changed out the hardware, and we also added some shelving. We added the window treatments. So really bringing in also more color. I changed out this light fixture as well and did these pretty little pleated shades in a green color. But we use this room all the time. It truly is the heart of our house. My husband loves to cook and the kids love to sit at the island. We have breakfast here every morning, coffee, tea, that kind of thing. And even though it's tiny, it really packs a great punch. It's just so charming, and it still has really great movement in the space. And we love like prepping next to the sink. We've got my plates here. So these are Penny Morrison plates that really play off nicely with the Roman shades. And then this is just another vintage piece of art with strawberries on it that I love. Strawberries are just so sweet to me, literally. And I've got one of my plant windows here. So these are called baby tears. But yeah, so this is kind of the kitchen area. This copper hood here was already here, and we replaced the range, but the copper hood, again, it just adds a different material. It adds that warmth, and it's just such a pretty place to cook with our copper hanging plates that I've collected, the shelving, and then the window too just adds a little bit of natural light to this space. And for space saving, we've got our knives here on the side. This is our beehive oven that actually is not functioning right now, but one day we would love to get this up and running. And for now, we store our cookbooks in there. So it's a great little spot to store the cookbooks, which we use very often. They're constantly in circulation. But again, adding kind of the brick detail that was here. It was painted by the previous owners, but we just added the creamier white to it. And I added another vintage piece of art above there. Little storage closet. And then here is Also something big that I added to this kitchen, this was not here when we first moved in. And I thought, wow, this is such like a waste of space, like nothing's going on here. I was like, we need more trash can, recycling bin. So I had a carpenter build out this little countertop area, kind of like coffee bar area, and then we've got pull out trash can, pull out recycling, and then up here more cookbook storage and our microwave and storing our mugs and everything for the coffee bar. But what a great use of space. It's so functional and also really pretty with the corbel details that we added. So I'm glad we did that. This is one of the old windows, and it pops up like this, and you hook it on the little hook, and you can see we can get some fresh air, but another kind of old feature of the house that I think is really nice to have. My favorite part of the kitchen is my plant window, which apparently to an old homeowner that I had visit a couple of weeks ago, this used to be one of the entries to the house, and probably 40 years, maybe 50 years ago, they closed it up and they put this beautiful window in here. So now this is where my plants live. And I have my topiaries, our fresh herbs, basil, rosemary. I just got this jasmine plant, so I'm excited for that to bloom. I love the smell of jasmine. But this window gets southern light, so it is really our main source of light in the kitchen, and it's great for my plants as well. But I just love this little spot because fresh flowers and plants in the house just make all the difference. So as we prepare to move into the dining room, I just wanted to touch on this piece here. So I got a couple of pieces of oil paintings and art passed down to me from generations from my family in Argentina. And this is one of them. And again, I think it brings out like the copper tones in the kitchen. It adds that warmth, and it's just obviously a special family heirloom. So I found this perfect spot for it. Now it lives in the kitchen here in Boston, Massachusetts. So right off the kitchen is our informal dining space, which is also our secondary entry space. So this room serves a lot of purposes and functions. And as you can see, we have the continuation of the original ceiling beams, again from the 1814 year. And this room has been a formal entry to some previous owners, but this just made the most sense for us to use as our dining area, which was right off the kitchen. But this wallpaper here was another wallpaper installed by a previous owner, and they had great taste, so I love it too. And the trim here is also a fair one ball color. And it's just so warm and just a happy space. And our dining table here is kind of set up. I have these Jalisca plates, and it's just like a charming, I changed out the light up here, and it has kind of antique feel, but not actually being antiques. And this here, actually, this painting is one of those other paintings from family member in Argentina, and they actually painted this one themselves. So this one's extra special. And I've got that one housed there. It's just beautiful with the gilt frame. This piece here is a mixed media art piece, and it is called Cherries, and you can see these nails here were collected around like warehouses all around America. And here we have some old reclaimed wood. Up here are like vintage cigar box pieces and bookbinder pieces. So it's a really cool mixed media piece. This one was a piece that used to live in my family's summer house in Maine. And they have since sold that lake house, but they were nice enough to let me have the piece because it worked perfectly on this wall. And then here, again, as I mentioned before, it is our main entry into the house, and we had to make this little nook area our kind of shoe collection. So all the shoes are stored in this handy little Amazon cabinet. So super inexpensive, but it really gets the job done. And then our mirror here, again, bob and detail. Love the bob and detail. But we have our little bench where the kids can put the shoes on. So this little corner of our dining area is truly functional, but still works within the big picture of the space. Here's my little tablescape I put together. I just got these plates actually for Mother's Day, by Jaliska, and I just love, again, the floral detail. The colors go really well in here. Lots of pattern, and then of course more scallop. If you guys don't know before the end of this that I love scallops, that may be a problem because I have mentioned it so many times, but this is just such a pretty place setting. And then strawberries I love, and I just thought that was like a pretty pop of color. And then this vase here is another piece that I found at Brimfield Flea Market. It definitely kind of has like a large French pitcher feel to it, and so I think it works really well to hold flowers, or of course if you want to put water in it and use it for that purpose as well. All the natural details too, I think, really tone down like any formality that maybe the plates bring, but I think it all works really well together. And eating on these plates day to day, it kind of just makes it more special feeling. So my family, we host a little bit. When my family and my husband's parents come up from Virginia, there's quite a few of us. So I am in the process of looking for a larger dining table. And I do have some new beautiful dining chairs coming any day now. But we all gather in here, and it's just like such a cozy space at night with our light fixture glowing, and then of course the warmth of the ceiling. And it's just a different atmosphere than like maybe some other home in like a more modern setting. And right off of our dining room is one of our powder rooms. And so this space has actually got a little bit of an interesting story. I had this wallpaper for a little while and was looking for a spot to use it. Actually, I probably planned on using it in this powder room, but was just kind of waiting for the right moment. And lo and behold, let's see, I think it was last winter, one of the pipes froze in our house and directly affected this powder room. So we had to rip up all the flooring and seal that out, insulate it, that kind of thing. And this was kind of my moment to change up the powder room as I wanted. So I had this brick herringbone floor installed. And then finally got to put up my wallpaper that I had been planning on doing, and was just waiting for the right moment. And sure enough, that was the time. But another kind of cool thing, when they had ripped up the flooring, remember how I had mentioned that there was a shoe shop on the property? We actually found old shoes under the flooring here. And it's just like probably 6 or 8 inch deep kind of dirt underground there, foundation under the flooring. And the shoes were just sitting there. So I don't know how old they were. They definitely looked old, potentially even from the early 1800s. But we actually just left them there. So it's kind of like a little time capsule. But I think that was a really cool find that we didn't expect to see. But this bathroom, you can see the wood paneling on the back with the mirror. That's original to the house and has gone unchanged through all the owners. We didn't, but the previous owners also installed this pedestal sink, because before it was really just like also very rough wood sink, as well as kind of toilet, like really old, almost colonial looking toilet system. We needed to update that a little bit. So thank you, Kohler, for the pedestal sink and the updated toilet. But we do have this lantern, which we inherited from the previous owner, so that's been here for a while, and just adds kind of that old world charm to the space. And then this piece, actually, I found in an estate sale right across the street from a house that sold, and it worked perfectly in here. So this is just a charming little happy bathroom, again, full of garden and flowers, my favorite. So I love showing this space off. So on the door too, we have this hardware that was on here. So really pretty little rosette kind of detail. I don't know how old it is, but I suspect it's pretty old. But it is just like a charming little detail to the door that we wanted to keep. And right off the dining room is our family room. It is the room we use probably second to most besides the kitchen. And when we were looking at this property, this room was unpainted. It was very dark. The previous owners weren't really using it. But I definitely saw the potential in this space. It is surrounded by all of our gardens. It's south-facing sunlight, so it really has like one of the best views in the house. And of course, we have vaulted ceilings in here as well. And the beams that you see are actually from a Vermont barn that was brought down to this area to go into this sunroom back in the 1980s. And I definitely did not want to paint those beams, but all of the white that you see was like a darker red, like cedar, and I was like, that needs to lighten up a little bit. So somewhat controversial to some people, I decided to paint it White Dove by Benjamin Moore, and wow, what a difference. It has lightened and brightened and made this room feel so light and airy, which was just transformational in itself. But I also got a large sectional for our family, so we sit here, we watch movies together, watch TV together, or just take a nap or rest. It's just a really cozy, like cat nap spot as well with that sun coming in. And we have a couple of different collected pieces as well. So over here, another Brimfield find, this French basket, but kind of the main showstopper of the room, in my opinion, is this blanket hutch here, painted. This was another piece that my mom had collected and used in her previous homes and gifted it to me, and so it now kind of acts as the focal point in the room, and our frame TV sits above it, and I've got my collected books and my plants all in this space. And then here is an ottoman. I was looking for the right size ottoman, something upholstered. I really couldn't find anything that fit in the space so well. So I actually found a inexpensive Wayfair piece. I just loved the turned legs on it, but the fabric wasn't right. So I took it upon myself to do my own reupholstery on it. And so far it's worked out and looks good, but eventually I'd love to do that professionally, get that fixed. But funny story about these, I actually collected these last night on the side of the road in front of our house. But don't they look nice here? I don't know, I like them. The purple's so pretty. And let's see what else. So I also have a big swath of wall here. I put a big tapestry and some candle sconces. I would love to put like a huge hutch piece there one day, but we do have our split AC unit, so that's gonna have to wait until I can get that moved. But overall, like winter and summer, everyone always asks, like, do you get hot in this space? Do you get cold in this space with the seasons change? We have a really good temperature control system in here, so we really use this room year round, and it works well. And like I said, you've got beautiful views to the garden. And it's just our main hangout spot, so we're really happy with it. And I have my giant olive tree too, which seems to be pretty happy in this space. It has been here almost 2 years or so. But yeah, it's another great focal point to the room, especially since we have high ceilings. It just keeps growing, 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 and we'll continue to watch it grow. Welcome to the primary bedroom. This is probably my favorite room in the house. I designed it right before we moved in. And let's start with the wallpaper. So the wallpaper is something that I saw on social media probably like 3 years ago. Absolutely fell in love with it. And I knew I needed to use it somewhere, but of course we didn't have this house yet. So I just kind of kept it in the back of my mind. And finally, when we purchased this house, I knew exactly where I wanted to use it, and it is in this space. So I wake up to it every day. Again, it's got the botanical floral print that I absolutely love, and it's just so happy and cheerful to wake up to in the mornings, with the kind of marigold and the blue-green trim color that my husband and I took on and painted. But yeah, this space is just a really cozy room. We've got a fireplace here that is non-functioning. It's very shallow, so I do not trust it, but it is a really great feature in the room. And then we also didn't really know how to orient the bed in this space, especially with the fireplace, but we figured with a really thin profile canopy bed, it would fit really nicely in front of the windows, and sure enough, it worked out really nicely with the fireplace as well. And you will also see here we have my little vintage scallop plates. Again, another scalloped edge detail that you'll see. You'll see the scallop edge on my bedding, lampshades. I love scallops. And I also have my dresser, our frame TV, which is great because if you're not familiar with frame TVs, it is just like art hanging on the wall when you're not using it. We do have a secondary entry to the bedroom, which we have pretty much closed off, and now we use it as a little seating area. So this is our little reading nook. I found this chair on Facebook Marketplace, so I love mixing high and low pieces, vintage pieces, antique pieces. Again, you're going to see that common theme in this house, but it is really just like a cozy little area to hang out. And some other features too. We've got my little basket of flowers, another Facebook Marketplace find. This art, we drove out to Worcester and it was in some guy's attic, and I thought with the background of the colors and then that pop of purple, it was a really beautiful space, or really beautiful art piece to add to this room. And that is our primary bedroom. I am definitely kind of the lead designer in the family for obvious reasons, but I am so lucky because my husband just is so go with the flow, and luckily we do actually have similar design style tastes, so it makes it super, super easy. And so far my kids are young enough where they haven't given their say quite yet, but I would say for the most part they love their rooms as well, and we'll just continue to build on them as they get older. But yeah, so far my husband has just been go with the flow. He's got his office space, which is his room, and he gets to do it with what he wants with it. But otherwise, he likes what I do. All right, so now we are going to head to my daughter Willow's room. Come with me. So before we actually go to my daughter's room, I wanted to touch on this space a little bit. This is like my little art gallery, which I touched on a little bit downstairs, but you can see I am growing my gallery wall, and I continue to add pieces over time. Of course, we've only lived here 2 years, so I will continue to add and add rather than, I hate bulk buying at like a big box retail store. It's not quite my style, but anyways, I've got pieces here. So a piece that I absolutely love, it was my first big art purchase by Luli Wallace. And again, it's got that cheerful, playful color and feel. So that is the big piece that you see coming up the stairs. And then I also have a Vanessa Cooper piece, which my mom actually gave to me as a gift, and she is a artist from the UK, and again, her art style is very like whimsical. There's always like a little storyline behind the art as well. And then up here, I just purchased these actually last weekend. I got back from Switzerland from visiting my brother and sister-in-law and their son, who's newborn. And I found these little bird porcelain bookends from an antique shop in Switzerland. So I love collecting things. I just thought they were so pretty and fit on these perfectly. And I will continue to display them. They just make me happy when I walk through the space. And then here, again, I'm continuing to build as time goes on, but I just wanted to point out Amy Elizabeth Krebs' art here. She is an awesome artist. Definitely check her out, but you can see she focuses on kind of botanicals, and then another thing that I love are bobbin details. So the bobbin frames stole my heart when she showed me those. So I've got that little gallery wall going. All right, so now we'll enter my daughter Willow's room. All right, welcome to Willow's room. She is one lucky little girl. I just finished this space almost. We're still waiting on a green spindle bed with a beautiful Pharaoh and ball green color to it. Didn't make it in here, but that's okay. But this style of the room is definitely a special, it's got kind of that British whimsy that I love so much. And the wallpaper is actually by Liberty, so it definitely fits the theme. And we had the trim painted, the doors painted in a Pharaoh and ball color. Super happy, and she loves the pink. And then one of her favorite colors is blue as well, so I had to incorporate Skylight by Farrow & Ball on the ceiling, which is a really pale blue color and picks up on the blues in the wallpaper. But yeah, this bedroom has I love the like little ruffle tops here, and then the stripe, cabana stripe curtains, again, very British. And then lots of like natural accents. We've got this wicker scallop, of course, edging on the mirror. We've got lots of pattern play with the stripes, and then of course the botanical, like little floral berry wallpaper. This is another Vanessa Cooper art piece, again, super cute. And then we have more scallops on the rug. Can't get enough scallops. And then we have this quilt here I just picked up at Brimfield Flea Market in Massachusetts. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's a big flea market that happens 3 times a year in Massachusetts. I try to go at least in the spring and the fall and do my collecting. But I'm excited to add this to the end of her bed once it gets here. And yeah, we've got just such a fun little play space. We used to have her little nursery chair here, but now because she is 3 years old, she now gets her little own play space with her chairs and her dollhouse. And it is her spot for a little bit of quiet time. But I'm really happy with the way that this room turned out, and we'll just continue to build upon it once her bed gets here too. Right now, I haven't been able to design too many children's rooms, but I think they are just so fun. It's where you can really play with pattern and color and really just have fun with it. And so being able to do my daughter's room, because she is just so silly and sassy and sweet, like a Sour Patch Kid, that this room definitely speaks to her personality. And then my son's room too, you'll see in a minute. It's just a little bit more handsome, antiques, that kind of thing. So really kind of going with their different personalities and styles, but it is a lot of fun. I wish I could do more. So Willow is a lucky girl. She gets her own fireplace in her room. It is non-functioning. Again, it's super shallow. I would not trust a fire in a children's room with such a shallow fireplace, but it is a great focal point in the space. And kind of a cool thing, again, this is an old house thing. It's got this little cubby space on the side, so we store, you know, all of her memory box stuff in there, extra clothes. And then up here, we didn't hardwire these lights actually. These are by Pookie US. They actually just came from the US from the UK. They're based there. And these are rechargeable lamps. And so you can either tap the tops or there's a remote to turn them on. So it's just another great light source in here. And then Willow's favorite art, which is a little bit kind of a juxtaposition to the rest of the room, is this gray Malin art, and it has a bunch of different dog breeds around the pool. She loves swimming. She loves coming up and looking at this art and being like, I am like this one, Mommy, you're like this one. But it really pulls, you can see the colors in the space, so it works even though it's a little bit of like a more modern photography. And this here is actually a vintage tea set from my grandmother. So it is stored carefully up here because it is very fragile, but it is a great little piece that adds just to her mantle, and we'll continue to add on as time goes on. Now that we've talked about my daughter Willow's room, we're going to go to my son Theo's room now. Come on. So you are now in my son Theo's room. Theo does get the smaller bedroom, but he doesn't seem to care at all. And this room is really special because it actually has my brother's childhood antique bed. And thankfully my dad saved it for years and years and years. And when it was time, I remembered it and I was like, I would love that bed. Can I have it? And so he brought it up here to Massachusetts from Virginia. And we put it in Theo's room, and it works just perfectly. It is a traditional rope bed, so we had to add a little bit of support under there, especially when he loves to jump on the bed. It's probably not the safest, but we're good now. And we just added these little plug-in flush sconce lights. We've got our little Explore flag, and then over here on the wall are some antique game boards, something that my mom, who is also a huge collector, has passed down to me. And so Those I think are just like a fun little addition for wall art that go really well with the antique bed. And then this little guy here is another Brimfield find, and it's a recycled newspaper, I guess, that's been twisted up into a dog shape. And the kids have named him Pookie for whatever reason. But he's a fun little addition to his bedroom. And we also have an antique plane hanging from the ceiling. And one other thing that you will learn about me is that I love tramp art. So in the gallery wall in the stairwell, you'll see a lot of tramp art frames. And this is another example of a tramp art frame. And that's another antique piece passed down to me. But yeah, this is a typical boys' room. We've got all of our books and Legos are put away, but you did see Eevee Pokemon. He's a big Pokemon fan, so he still gets his pieces in this space. But it's a cozy little room, and but it packs a punch, so I'm super happy with it, and I think he is too. Okay, so now that we have done the inside of the house, I am going to take you outside and show you our gardens and the stone walls, which is why we named it Stone Wall Gardens. So follow me. So welcome to our outdoor area. Whenever the weather is nice in New England, we love to be outdoors all the time. So we have here this little patio area. This is our fire pit. So we will come out here with the kids and do s'mores. And then after the kids go down, the adults get together and we do cocktails by the fire. So it's a really great little place. We have our string light, so it's cozy in the evening. And then over here, we have our alfresco dining area. And this is another favorite spot of mine. I love eating outside. The kids love eating outside. They're always asking, let's eat outside. And so we have our wicker chairs and then our teak table. And I just love the green and white striped umbrella. Simple Target find. Everyone's like, where did you get that? Honestly, it was so inexpensive, but it's so cute in this space. And you can see like all of our patio area has this stone wall here, so part of the Stone Wall Gardens. And I just learned actually from a previous homeowner that had lived here for 30 years that the owner before them had a somewhat famous Italian masonry build this whole wall back in like the 50s, I think. And they were super proud of having him build their wall because apparently he is pretty talented. But it has done really well over the years, and I just love how the moss grows on it and just adds another element to our garden space. And then over here we have all our flower beds that we continue to add on. My last home did not have a lot of sunshine in the flower bed, so I am in heaven here. I get to plant all the sun-loving plants here. So in the spring, you guys just missed all the irises were blooming, all the peonies were blooming. It was absolutely gorgeous, but now we're into the summer flowers. So it's gonna be just as good as we continue to grow. We've got our lavender. And then this is another secondary seating area. Just another place where we can gather with cheese and wine, hang out with the kids, and then our sun chases as well. If we want to do a little sunbathing. So this is kind of our immediate patio outdoor area.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.